And welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, simplescomedy.com. Like I just said, it's the website. Go there. Here we are. New setup, kind of, if you're watching the video, which I urge you to do over there at C Plus Comedy. Well, yeah, you can do it at cpluscomedy.com or at youtube.com/cpluscomedy. You can see that I am hands-free from everything, all the technology I was relying on before, which is great. I got the GoPro in a new corner of the room, hopefully to get a better shot, because over there it was too dark. If I have not done any post-processing to the video, it's way too bright, both outside and in front. But we have the Zoom recorder, brand hunk of new junk sitting right next to me. iPad's hooked up to it. And my phone is right next to it doing the countdown. And we're back to the laptop, because that is it's the best way I feel about things. So here we are, coronavirus thing. I'm still going to work because apparently broadcast television is essential work, is what I've been told by the guy who owns the company, by the state of Georgia, by the city of Atlanta. So here we are. I'm still going to work. One of, I would say, 8 people in the entire office out of 260 people that work for this station, for the network. One of 8 people that's still going in, and there's a security guard on the floor above us, and then maybe 2 more people. So max 10 people that are going in, which is, I mean, it makes my commute, again, I know I've mentioned this before, commute is good. 15 minutes up, 15 minutes down. One time it took 20 and I was pissed. And, I mean, yeah, it's great. It's great. People are dying, over 1,000 deaths, but other than that, there's plentiful parking at the office. Today and yesterday, in the middle of the day, I just went down to the garage where there was no parking, where there's no cars, and just walked back and forth for about an hour. Today I walked for a little bit, and then I got tired, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go sit in my car. And I don't know if I should mention this, but luck had it, I brought down my iPad and I started watching Mythic Quest over on Apple TV. Mythic Quest is the show created by Rob McElhenney. Is that how you pronounce the name? And I think David Crosby as well. I don't know if that's his name. David Crosby. No, that's a singer-songwriter, you idiot. David Cornsby? Oh, Hornsby. It's Hornsby. That's what it is. David Hornsby's in it as well, both from It's Always Sunny. Very funny show. Very funny show. But it's a show about video. It's kind of like a World of Warcraft type video game that also is extremely popular in today's day and age. And I say that because in the second episode, Rob McElhenney's character, who's like supposed to be this giant video game magnate that everybody respects, one of my issues with some sitcoms, or dramas in fact too as well, is when you have a character that's famous, there's no proportionality to how famous that person really would be in real life. So you'll see like a sitcom, somebody's famous, and they'll say like, I'm friends with Beyonce, but the most famous character, the most famous person they've had on the show as a guest star would be like Fred Mellman. Which sounds like a dig. It's not, to Fred Mellman. He's a great character actor. But not what I would call, A-tier famous, which we shouldn't be tiering people in the first place. But I should check in the recording. But it's a very fine show, very well done. Great cast, very funny. I just finished Avenue 5 as well. It's not, I don't want to get into it. It's not the best thing. And then also I interviewed, I just read a trending headline on Deadline. It said Seattle NPR station says it will no longer carry Donald Trump's coronavirus briefings live because of misinformation. Wow. And that's where they, that's one of the epicenters, the second epicenter compared to New York, where it's just exploding. Anyway, but I spoke to Larry the Cable Guy, I had my interview, and this thing came just in time for it. So it was great. It was 40 minutes long, and we had a good time. About 30 minutes in, I asked a question in regards to coronavirus, like, and how comedy is going to bounce back. And I don't know what to say because I don't want to be rude, but he did answer the question. But when he came back, the answer he gave me back, well, he didn't answer the question, but no one listens to this show. But his answer veered towards politics, which this show, Seedless Comedy, the Constitutionals, News Time, while you can look at me and go, I know what side you land on, which I voted for Trump. I'm kidding, I didn't. But you can look at me and go, you know what, this guy's a pretty liberal person. I don't think you can tell it over the phone. I probably, if you're not watching the video, you probably can't even tell. I'm a Negro here sitting on the couch. That's the title. 6:52. I'm just writing down the timestamps of what the title is instead. But he veered into politics, and he kind of just went off on a 10-minute tangent about how political correctness is ruining comedy and this and that, and then for the first time ever, I decided to I don't want to say fight, but fight back against what the interviewee was saying. And then I tried to keep it cool, and he tried to keep it cool, but it was just like I could feel the animosity. Let me tell you, I was very happy to, after 10, 11 minutes to get back to just talking about comedy. But all in all, Daniel Whitney. Also, I didn't know what to call him. I asked him specifically. I was like, hey, should I call you Daniel, or should I call you Larry? He said, call me whatever you feel like. So once I let it slip as Larry, and then at the end, I made sure to call him Daniel. But he's a insightful person. He's friends with people like Colin Quinn and Lewis Black, so he can. I mean, obviously he's not a jerk, but just him, the fact of him bringing that up, apropos of nothing. What we're just talking about, can comedy bounce back from the coronavirus, was truly magic. Look, I was watching David Blaine, do some card tricks. Okay. All right. And I have 40 minutes to work with, so he's gonna be a profile piece. I'm very happy that we had this conversation. Okay. So let's get on with this first stories. Both Endeavor and UTA are going to make some cuts because of this coronavirus pandemic. Now, UTA and Endeavor are both entertainment managing companies. Endeavor is owned by WME, and they're making. Let me start with UTA because that was the first one I brought up, but this comes from Variety. Written by Justin Kroll. UTA cuts salaries across company amid coronavirus pandemic. So UTA is the United God, these freaking pop-ups, man. You almost made me curse on this show. Okay. So the presidents, the CEO, Jeremy Zimmer, and co-presidents Jay Suris and David Kramer addressed the staff via a video conference on Monday to break the news. So what they're doing is they are going to cut salaries. I believe there's a percentage they're doing it by. Excuse me. The decision is thought by insiders. Okay, yeah. So it's just cutting salaries. Structure so that machine. Okay, so they're doing it in such a way that the most senior colleagues are making the largest financial sacrifice. I forgot what company it was, but before I came inside here to record this show, I read a story about one company where the execs are taking a 10% cut so that the people below them can get paid or something like that. I don't know. I really wasn't paying attention anyway. So they're just cutting costs. They're not being really specific with it. And actually, there's nothing on here. The numbers were on here earlier. But anyway, the decision is thought by insiders to be a better alternative to the outright layoffs enacted by Paradigm Agency last Friday, which could result in up to 100 pink slips in a company of about 700 employees. That's for Paradigm. And then for Endeavor, and then UTA, obviously making cuts. Endeavor, this is from Deadline, written by Mike Fleming Jr. Ari Emanuel, you might know that name, and Patrick Whiteshell. They described the cuts. They said there's going to be about 250 jobs, mostly from operational roles that cannot be performed from homes. And that includes staffs at hotels, restaurants that are owned by the parent company. And then some of those people, and the parent company is WME, William Morris Endeavor, I believe it's called. But Endeavor's the, I don't know, the managerial arm. Not managerial, the operational arm. I don't know. But WME is just like UTA. It's a talent agency company. I should have said that for the UTA. Talent agency company. So I believe that just like, I don't think I pulled this story up. Oh, yeah. And then this is also one from BuzzFeed. I should probably turn those off. Ari Emanuel is not going to take a salary, and Patrick, his partner, Patrick Whiteshell, are not taking a salary for the rest of the year. And the same thing is happening for BuzzFeed. This comes from the Wrap, written by J. Clara Chan. BuzzFeed to reduce employee pay, CEO to forego salary due to coronavirus pandemic. They also know these memos. BuzzFeed CEO John Peretti is not going to take any money for the rest of the year. And then employee pay is going to be slashed between 5 to 25% for at least 2 months. So the first couple of months, depending on how much you make, you lose 5%. I believe, here are the numbers. Salary reductions, which began on April 1st, it is now the 26th of March, will apply to employees in the U.S. making above $40,000 a year and will be tiered based on a person's annual salary. For those making $40,000 to $64,900, salaries will be slashed by 5%. So I guess in the long run, they won't be losing that much for 2 months. And then for those making between $6,500 and $8,900 and $900, they'll receive a 7% cut. And it increments up to there. And it goes 9% for the next tier. BuzzFeed staffers with the salaries between $125,000 and $169,900, 11%. And then for those $170,000 to $224,000, 12%, you get it. So this is just for a couple of months, but they will be seeing how this happens, what happens in June, what happens in July. If they have to rethink the whole thing, then they will. As you can see, everybody's hurting, from talent agencies to online periodicals. In a little bit later in the show, we'll talk about how this is hurting the other companies, but or the news, the journalists, and all that stuff. But this not being able to do your job correctly or to the fullest extent is, obviously you can do, let's talk specifically for journalism, and I guess talent agencies too. You can do that job from home. You can scout somebody and say, oh, this person is funny talent, or this story, I can report this entire story from home, which has been going on. Look at NPR, any of those podcasts, those people are reporting from home and they're doing a great job of it. But you need to be hands-on in a way where going to the area where the story is can only help. Can help. Obviously, you can't. BuzzFeed and the New York Times and none of these companies that even are in journalism can't operate in the same way for 6 to 18 months or however long this pandemic is going to be affecting us. Let me just add this to here. 6:52. Just handling some business. It's not 6:52. It's not that bright at 6:52. I'll tell you that much. But we do know that for at least for the next season, the animated shows, that air on Fox and probably animated shows for, throughout the television sphere are going to be some version of fine. The Simpsons, Family Guy, Duncanville, and Bob's Burgers obviously have been renewed by Fox because animated shows they need at least a year in advance to make these shows. And so now we've learned, this comes from The Hollywood Reporter, written by Leslie Goldberg, animated series adapt to keep production growing. Animation series adapt to keep production going amid industry-wide shutdown. So now all these shows, a lot of these voice actors, they have a lot of other jobs. Kevin Michael Richardson, Tara Strong, they've made appearances on any of these shows. They more than likely have recording booths in their houses, or a room that's soundproof. A room like this, but it's probably soundproofed, that they can record. That you can record, so many things in. You just call in to the production studio, whoever's producing it, and then the voice director will be right there. The engineer will be right there to help you out. And boom, they have their lines recorded. The script sent over in PDF. Yeah, that's all you got to do. So for Family Guy and The Simpsons, I believe Family Guy they're already into making next season's episodes. I think they have 18 episodes already recorded. Al Jean, the Simpsons showrunner, said production hasn't skipped a day, lost a beat. We intend to do 22 shows we were contracted to do. There's been no change in how we do things. If you don't know, I think Harry Shearer, who does Ned Flanders, Skinner, Monty Burns, just a whole bunch of characters. I'm trying to think of Smithers. I watch The Simpsons every single day, and I blanked on Mr. Smithers' name. He said, when he was leaving when he wanted to leave The Simpsons a couple years ago, it was like leaked. It was said that he records over the phone. That's what he does. So these shows will be fine. Cartoons will be fine. They're already deep into next season anyway. So listen, we're going to take a break and we'll come back. Second half of the show. Nothing else. And we're back. Oh my gosh. And now I hear a buzzing. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay. Oh God. It's still going? If I turn this off. Oh jeez. I'm sorry. This is embarrassing. Okay, what if I disarm? If I just disarm this? Is it gonna? Oh, it just doesn't stop. Okay, hopefully it's not annoying. Very interesting that this is going on. Hopefully this makes recording the show a lot easier. This new recording. I've been playing with it. Jesus Christ in heaven. Oh my God. I have been dealing with it. See, I get to leave, obviously. But these people upstairs get to stay. And God bless it. If this I'm not dying, but I feel like I'm dying. I haven't gotten a wink of sleep since this whole virus thing started. I'm not joking. I have not had one good night of sleep. And it's all because of them. All right, let's get on with this so I could go into the other room. This comes from Rick Porter. Stay-at-home TV. People staying at home. They're watching a lot of TV, obviously. That's all you hear about is people watching TV. Talking about all this stuff. People just saying, oh, what are you binge watching? What are you binge watching? Look, I used to not have a job for a very long time. Or I used to have like a bunch of gigs. And the days you don't work are the worst. Because you're not making money and it sucks. And you're just sitting there at home. And obviously the people who haven't given up, not given up, that sounds bad. If you're doing a bunch of gig work and you're actively looking for a job, you don't want to sit there and watch TV all day because it is not helping you. And I mean, trust me, I've done both. I've done both sides. I've been looking for a job all day, or I've been watching TV all day, and they're both equally worrisome and stressful. So if you are not working right now, and you're just sitting home watching TV, thinking this is a vacation, you're ruining things for yourself. That's why I continue to wake up and work out. Oh, Chris Hemsworth, he has an app called Center, CENTR, and I'm touching my face again. And you can probably hear my eyes squeak. This pollen is killing me. Just like them. Both killing me. He has an app called Center, and it's a workout app, and it can plan your meal nutritions and lead you through workouts and everything. But most importantly, it's a workout app, and they made it free. He made it free. He and his team made it free for 90 days. So I started checking it out. It's a good app, very well produced. And then Peloton made their app free for 90 days, and then Nike, they already had a free app, but they have a paid section that they made free for 90 days. So now I'm just switching between all three. I did a dance class and a boxing class this morning for Center and Peloton, irrespectively. And it was challenging. Oh, and then I hopped over to Nike and I did a stretch class. So I did about an hour and 10's worth of workouts on 3 different apps. I had a good time. Anyway, that's the story of my life. I'm going to work. I'm waking up. I'm working out. That's it. So, TV watching has spiked. For kids 2 to 11, this increased by 14%. And 12 to 17, this increased by 18%. Usage for TV among adults, up 5% overall. Shows on broadcast are getting the best nights they've ever had in years. Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, all those different Chicago shows. There's going to be a crossover with Chicago PD and FBI Most Wanted. Or I think Chicago Med. I don't know which one. It's all the same to me. It's all the same. All the names change. Is that what that song's about? You gotta laugh. That might be a reference. And then all as well, we'll get into this later. News programming has skyrocketed, has just exploded, which is good for the networks, but I don't think it's good for the people who are just watching and reading coronavirus news all day, every day, because that stuff's not going to change. You get 3 alerts from Washington Post, New York Times, and NPR, and it's all going to be the same thing. 3.3 billion people apply for unemployment, biggest since the recession. So, ABC's World News Tonight, which usually gets, they got 12.55 million nightly viewers. NBC's Nightly News got 12.01. They have not seen these numbers since the early 2000s. CBS's Evening News has jumped to 7.6 million viewers. Wow. And people don't like or stopped watching when Norah O'Donnell took over. And then obviously, cable news has seen a growth. CNN, their total day audience the week of March 16th to the 22nd was double than that of last year. Fox News increased by 77%. MSNBC was up by 38%. Wow. And it had its most watched week ever, averaging 1.64 million viewers. Oof. And then streaming data, obviously, they don't get, but Nielsen can kind of get numbers from, Roku and Apple TV. They're saying it jumped 10% in the week of March 9th. And then HBO reports that from the 14th to the 23rd, HBO Now rose 40% over its previous 4-week average. Whew. Man. Obviously, it's driven by Westworld. Okay, so people are watching more and more TV because they're sitting at home and they're not doing anything. I will be interested. So let's say best case scenario, summertime. The weather gets warmer, hotter, especially down here, and this heat, the virus can't really survive well in heat. I don't know the statistics, but I don't think I heard. I might be wrong. I'm usually wrong. So what happens if there's some type of, not cure, but some type of treatment for it? And, June, July, people are, starting to go back to work. Because it's going to happen. Like, companies are not going to pay people to just sit around anymore. So June, July, people start heading back to work, inside the offices and stuff. cautiously, of course. They'll work from home some days, but obviously they have to go back into work at some point. What that's going to do for television, because these cartoons are being made, but nothing else. Everything else is staggered and stopped. I guess I have nothing else to add to that, but with all the news jumping up and increasing, then it's good that people are learning, not to trust, but to, I guess they're not staying in their neighborhoods. They're learning to go beyond what their normal news usage is, because there's probably people watching CNN for the first time in years, people watching MSNBC for the first time in years. I'm not going to acknowledge the other one. No one should watch that one. But this comes from the New York Times. So this next story is, what happens when they're only focusing on that and they're not focusing on what's local. Local news outlets dealt a crippling blow by this biggest of stories. This comes from Tiffany Sue and Mark Tracy. Now, this isn't the original. I want to preface this with, this isn't the original story I saw this from. And I mean, it's the same theme, the same premise, but I don't remember. I think it was Vox. They also somebody wrote something about local news papers and local news online print dying because of, the coronavirus. So there are papers, like if Patch, or, I don't know, something like, let's say your town's name, Observer. Like if you say the Marietta Observer, the Lafayette Lounge, and it's a local paper, you see it, you can buy it, you can read it online, you can go to your Big Lots. You go to your local grocery store, and it's sitting there for $3, $2.50, something like that. Those papers are dying because people aren't reading it, but B, the coronavirus, because they're not able to work. The stories that are like hyper local aren't able to be reported on online. Like you got to go in to the opening of the new town hall. You got to go into that stuff. But then also these papers, they don't have enough money to pay these people in the first place. There's one organization that you can apply through. They have partnerships with different newspapers around the nation. And then if you're a journalist and let's say you want to work in Lafayette, Louisiana, is that an area, I believe? Let's say you want to work in Lafayette, because that's where you're born, and that's where you want to be. And it's obviously not New Orleans. It's not the biggest place, but I don't know if Lafayette's a real place. Let me look that up. Lafayette. Lafayette is a city in Louisiana. Look at me. So let's say you want to work in Lafayette. And I don't even know if it's big. I'm not going to look up and see if it's big. But let's say you want to work in Lafayette because that's where you're born. There's an organization you can apply through their website, and you can they have job listings from the Lafayette Observer, the Lafayette Gazette, and they're willing to pay up to half of your salary. If the Lafayette Gazette can get $20,000, then they're willing to pay the other $20,000 for you to make a living wage being a reporter in this small town. That is such a great idea. I had no idea a company like that existed. It's so beautiful to see local news, hyper local news, being treated like it should be, like it's one of the broadcasters, or even one of the local news on television. Excuse me, I get a little choked up here. But as you can see, if you read this piece that Miss Sue and Cripley, is that his name? Tracy. I had Tracy in my head, and I thought Cripley was funnier. But if you obviously this pandemic is the great. This is a quote from the thing from the piece, but obviously, pandemic is the biggest thing that'll ever happen to the Lafayette Gazette, which is not a real thing. Oh, I'm getting a spam text. It's my favorite thing to receive. What is going on with? I think it's. Never mind. I don't want to get into it because I don't have that much time left. Because I am dying. I'm sorry. That's not funny to say, especially during the coronavirus. I keep looking at the monitor for some reason. The cameras are over there. It sucks because you have the places like Chattanooga, where I went to school. The Pulse is going to discontinue its print edition. They're just having to just stop doing print editions. Isthmus, a weekly Madison magazine in Wisconsin, announced it would go dark for a time. People just can't do their jobs. Chicago Reader starts switching off between PDF and print editions. They're not, because it costs money to print, and then it costs money to pay somebody to take the truck out and to put in these stores. It just sucks that these journalists, they're doing their dreams, and something like this that shuts down an entire world is affecting it. But let's move on to the bigger side of the news. This comes from Variety. ABC is putting a heavier focus on the news. It's written by Brian Steinberg. So, ABC in the past few days, the Walt Disney-owned broadcast network has pushed back its flagship late-night program, Jimmy Kimmel Live, currently on repeats, obviously, to make room for Nightline. So Nightline has become the premier thing. When the pandemic started, this is from the piece, later on in the piece, I'm just now remembering it. When the pandemic started, they forewent an episode of 2020 to do an episode of 2020 that was about the pandemic. Like, they already prepared an episode, but then they were like, no, throw that out. Do a 2020 special about the pandemic. Whereas before, and then they did a Saturday night broadcast of ABC News, Whereas before, that was about the pandemic. Whereas before, Nightline, in 2013, the network pushed it back to air after midnight, with top Disney executives believing Kimmel's show would bring in more ad revenue if it aired after the late local news. The decision made sense financially, but I'm trying to skip ahead. I'm trying to skip ahead because there's a part where I wanted to read. Anyway, the news division had disclosed that Okay, anyway, the staffers were a little bit discouraged because, you push back Nightline, which is supposed to be this broadcasting news thing, their NBC News, their nightly news, their CBS Evening News. Then it just doesn't, you're basically saying that their jobs are moot or aren't as important. But now we have the return, this comes from New York Times, of evening broadcast news. Something that is completely unbiased, whereas you go to cable news and it's going to be biased no matter where you look. It's going to be biased. But evening news is now back in the spotlight, and that's why those numbers are up. I'm using my hands a lot because I don't have the iPad in my hands. This is the evening news is back, written by John Coblin. World News Tonight, Nightly News, both, like I said earlier, and those 12 million viewers. This is the first time that they've been this big since the 2000s, as I said earlier. Lester Holt says, nothing else matters right now. This is the story of our lifetimes. And that could be true. We could also see aliens come down in the next year or so. God, what would Trump do if aliens came down? What would happen? What would this administration, how would this administration react? Wouldn't that be great? But now people are starting to trust the broadcast a little bit more because they understand that even during a time where we just had 12 people on stage debating each other to run as a president. Now, I think people are smart enough to see, even though we have dumb kids going out and celebrating their spring break right now, but I think people are smart enough to see, or the adults are smart enough to see, or people who watch news, there could be teenagers watching evening news. They're smart enough to see that the veil of cable news is very thin, and that they can peer into CNN or MSNBC or Fox News and go, this is wrong. Not all of it, but they can look at one of them, Fox News, and say this is wrong. Chris Cuomo. I don't like Chris. I don't know. I'm just joking. It's Jake Tapper I don't like. So they can look and see that this is wrong and that they need something that's going to be a little bit more truthful, a little bit more substantive, and something that's not biased. That's why you can trust Brian Holt. I was thinking Brian Williams. That's why you can trust Lester Holt. Brian Williams, I do like him, even though he lied about the helicopters. And Norah O'Donnell. And even Stephanopoulos. I know he doesn't do the evening news for ABC, but I don't know that guy's name. I'm very happy for Norah O'Donnell because her show was not doing well. In all, an average of 32.2 million people watched the evening newscast last week, a 42% increase from a year earlier. Younger people have tuned in too, 67% rise among adults between ages of 25 and 54. I'm in that age range, baby. Closer to the bottom than I am the top, which is good. So, man, this is this is really changing everything. And not only is it changing for news time, I've covered how it changes late night in TV and talk shows, movies, and now next week's episode is music, which I've already written, which I'm so happy about. I'm so glad I've written that episode. But it changes the way news is going to be presented, because we have been dealing with, quote unquote fake news for the past 8 years. Yes. 8 years. Right? No, 2012. Okay, today's 2020. Go back for the past 5 years. So 5 or 6 years. So maybe it's time that we can elevate ourselves from that area of, not real news to something that's believable. All right. Listen. If you like what you heard here, and I don't know why you would, head on over to the website, simplescomedy.com, where we've got interviews with your favorite comedians. Be on the lookout for that Larry the Cable Guy one. I think April 7th is the date. It'll be out. So yeah, you can, and that's where that's a landing page for everything, pretty much. So definitely cpluscomedy.com. You want to see a video version of the show? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/cpluscomedy. You can see me sitting here on the futon, talking to the mic, trying to make eye contact with the cameras, and then shyly looking away. Is youtube.com/cpluscomedies, or you can also see our flagship show, News Time, which is a news show, entertainment news show. It's like the Daily Show, but way less funny. Just try to interject jokes in it. This week's episode is about how the coronavirus impacts talk shows and late night hosts. Right? Yeah. So definitely check it out. Next week's will be about how it affects music. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @CPlusComedy. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ChadBlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Rate, review us on the Constitutionals, on the Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just rate and review us. Tell your friends. Share everything. Comment on everything. And I will respond. I promise you I will respond, because I got nothing else going on. Thank you for listening. This is the end. Goodbye.